Isn't it just fundamental to being human? That, that drive to grow, to improve, to actually achieve the things we aim for.
It really is. Yeah, that sort of built-in desire to evolve, to reach a bit higher,
Yeah.
it seems, well, deeply wired in us.
And you see it everywhere, don't you? I mean, just think about New Year's.
Oh, absolutely. Resolutions.
Yeah, it's like this huge collective, okay, this year, lose weight, write the book, maybe start that business, or even just, wake up earlier. The goals are definitely there.
For sure. But what's really interesting in the stuff we've been looking at really highlights this, is that big gap you often see between wanting something and actually sticking with it long enough to get there.
Exactly. And that's really what we want to unpack today. Our mission here is to figure out, okay, how do we set personal goals that last? And what's the mindset we need?
Right.
The sources we dug into cover all sorts,
Yeah.
big stuff like getting healthier overall, running a marathon or maybe a 5K, but also smaller specific things like eating more greens, actually going to the gym, maybe learning guitar.
It's a really good mix, actually. Captures the kinds of things people genuinely aspire to. And what's kind of striking is how the core ideas for making any of these happen tend to be pretty similar.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. Why bother? Why set goals in the first place? What's the real value?
Well, fundamentally, goals give you direction. Without them, like our sources point out, it's super easy to feel like you're just sort of drifting,
Mm.
reacting to things instead of, proactively steering.
Like being lost at sea, almost. No compass, just pushed around by the waves. One of the sources actually used a great analogy. Goals are like putting an address into your GPS. If
Exactly.
you don't know where you're going, how on earth do you expect to get there?
Precisely. And clear goals, they do more than just point the way. They build focus, they give your actions intention, and they create momentum. When you know the target, your efforts just naturally line up better.
And I think there's another powerful thing, maybe less obvious at first, that the sources touched on. It's the daily meaning it gives you.
Right, the purpose.
Yeah, even on those really tough days, and you just don't feel like it, knowing what you're working towards can be a real anchor, a reason to push on.
That's a really key point. It shifts things from just, well, going through the motions to feeling like you're actively building something meaningful for yourself, even if it's just a personal goal.
Okay, so we get the why, but let's be real, a lot of goals end up forgotten. What are the common mistakes, the traps people fall into right at the start?
Okay, a really big one, and our sources definitely stress this, is vagueness. Setting goals that are just too fuzzy.
Like the classic, I want to get healthier.
Exactly. Great intention. But what does healthier actually look like? Is it weight? Fitness levels?
Hmm.
Eating habits, like those greens you mentioned?
Right, because it's so blurry, you can't really measure if you're making progress. And like we said, if you can't see yourself moving forward, that motivation just poof disappears.
Hmm.
It's like trying to hit a target hidden in fog.
Totally. Another huge pitfall is trying to do way too much at once.
Mhm.
You know, aiming to change everything simultaneously.
Oh, yeah.
One source mentioned someone trying to change 12 things at the same time. And that just, well, it rings true, doesn't it? It's usually a recipe for feeling completely overwhelmed and burning out fast.
I can definitely relate to that feeling. Stretched too thin, juggling all these things, and then you end up making zero real progress on anything. The sources are so, right, focus is key. You can do amazing things, just probably not all together. Concentrate that energy.
Yeah, and one more big mistake the sources bring up, accountability,
Hmm.
or rather the lack of it.
Hmm.
If you keep your goals totally secret, it just makes it, well, way easier to quietly give up when things get tough or the initial excitement wears off.
That's such a good point. It's like if nobody knows you plan to run that 5K, skipping a few training runs doesn't feel like a big deal. But if you've told someone, maybe a friend is expecting you or just checking in, it adds this other layer, like a positive pressure almost that helps keep you going.
Exactly. Okay, so we've seen some common ways things go wrong. Let's flip it. How do we set goals that actually work? What makes a goal powerful and effective?
Well, the sources really hammer home the importance of being specific. So instead of just get fit, it's got to be something concrete, like
Right.
go to the gym 3 times every week, or maybe run a 5K race in 8 weeks. That kind of clarity changes everything.
And that specificity leads right into the next point.
Yeah.
Make it measurable. We talked about the vague goals problem if you can't track it. How do you stay motivated?
Right.
Measurable goals give you those little wins, those milestones, and the sources say these act like reinforcement, keeping you plugged in.
And while you want to push yourself, the sources also advise being, realistic. Don't set something so huge it feels impossible right from the start.
Yeah, that's demotivating in itself.
Find that sweet spot, you know? Challenging, yes, but achievable. So you build confidence with those early wins.
That idea of building confidence, self-efficacy, it's crucial, which connects to another great tactic from the sources, breaking big goals down.
The overwhelm factor, like wanting to write a book, that just sounds huge.
Totally paralyzing. But the sources suggest breaking it into, they call them micro goals.
Micro goals. Okay.
Commit to just 500 words a day.
Mhm.
Suddenly that massive mountain feels more like a series of small hills. It lowers the resistance to getting started.
That makes so much sense. Smaller steps feel doable, and you get that little hit of accomplishment each time.
Exactly, creates momentum. And finally, the sources really stress knowing your why.
Your reason behind it all.
Yes. What's the deep down reason you want this? What's driving you personally? Because let's face it, motivation will dip.
Oh, inevitably.
And when it does, having that strong emotional connection, that personal why, acts like an anchor. It stops you from just drifting away when things get hard.
Such a critical point. Okay, so you've set these great, specific, meaningful goals. Now for the hard part, actually doing it. Execution.
Right. And here, the sources really shift the focus. It's less about relying on pure willpower.
Which comes and goes.
Exactly. It's
Right.
more about building systems. Willpower, as the sources say, is like a muscle. It gets tired.
Finite resource.
Totally. So building systems means weaving your goals into your daily life, making the actions more automatic.
How does that look practically?
Well, the material gave good examples, like if you want to hit the gym in the morning, get your clothes ready the night before.
Reduces friction.
Exactly. Or arrange to meet a workout buddy. That commitment makes it harder to bail. The little things that make it easier to just do the thing.
And the sources also talk a lot about tracking your progress, seeing it visually.
Yeah, that's huge for motivation. Whether it's a journal, an app, or just ticking days off on a calendar, seeing those small wins add up.
They mentioned habit trackers specifically. There's something really satisfying about checking that box, isn't there?
There really is. That visual proof is powerful. The sources also brought up visualization, like what athletes do.
Mentally rehearsing success.
Yeah, picturing yourself doing it, achieving the goal, apparently it actually primes your brain, makes it more likely to happen.
Interesting. Like creating a mental blueprint. Doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe just a few moments of focus.
Exactly. And one last thing on execution, don't forget to celebrate the small wins.
Acknowledge the progress.
Yes, reward yourself, even for small steps. It reinforces the behavior and keeps you feeling positive about the journey.
Okay, theory's great, but let's ground this a bit.
Right.
You mentioned the sources, but thinking personally, do you have an example? A time you set a tricky goal and actually saw it through?
I do, actually. A few years back, I decided I wanted to wake up at 6 a.m. every single day for 30 days straight.
Wow. Okay, for a night owl, that sounds challenging.
It really was. But like the sources suggest, I built a system. Right away, cold shower, quick one, then like 15 minutes journaling, then a brisk walk outside.
A set routine.
Yeah, a consistent sequence. It signaled, okay, day started. And honestly, what felt like a real struggle at first slowly turned into something I actually looked forward to. It became, well, just part of my lifestyle.
That's a brilliant example of routine trumping that initial resistance. Okay, I've got one too. Guitar. Always wanted to learn.
Common one.
Totally. But the idea of hours of practice felt impossible. So I went super small, like almost laughably small. 10 minutes every single day, no exceptions.
That's textbook microgoal stuff. Low resistance. How did it go?
Surprisingly well. I mean, some days I'd get into it and play for longer, sure.
Mm.
But I always did the 10 minutes. And you know what? Over months, then years, it really added up.
Consistency.
Exactly. I'm no rock star, but I can play songs now. It just proved that whole idea. Little bits, done consistently, beat massive efforts done once in a blue moon.
Such a powerful demonstration. Okay, let's shift slightly now to the mental game. Mindset. The sources keep coming back to how crucial this is.
Absolutely. You can have the best plans, the slickest systems, but if your head's not in the right place, it's so easy to get derailed.
Yeah.
One key thing the sources advises: expect bumps in the road. Obstacles aren't a sign you should quit. They're just part of the process.
And it's about how you frame those setbacks, isn't it? Not as failures, like, oh, I messed up, it's over.
Right.
But more like, okay, that didn't work. What can I learn? How do I adjust? Viewing them as learning opportunities.
That reframing is vital. And the sources also draw a really important line between motivation and discipline.
Ah, yes. Motivation is great, but it's fickle. It comes and goes.
Hit the tide, yeah. Discipline, though, that's different.
That's the commitment. Showing up, doing the work, especially on the days you don't feel motivated. The sources basically say discipline is the engine for long-term success.
Yeah.
Motivation is just the spark plug.
Good analogy. And lastly, something maybe underestimated, your environment, the people around you.
Huge factor. The sources stress creating an environment that helps, not hinders, and surrounding yourself with supportive people.
People who believe in you, who maybe hold you accountable in a positive way.
Exactly. It can make a massive difference.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's try and pull out the absolute core messages. If listeners take away just 3 things from our chat and the sources, what should they be?
Okay, 3 things. First, get specific and make it meaningful. Know exactly what you want and why it truly matters to you. That's foundational.
Second, break it down. Turn big goals into small, daily actions, and then build systems around those actions. Don't just rely on willpower. Make it easier to succeed.
And third, be resilient. Expect setbacks. Learn from them. Don't let them stop you. Focus on progress, not perfection. The journey matters.
So if you're listening now and maybe there's that goal you've been thinking about perhaps putting off, let this be a little nudge. Just take one small step today.
Just one.
Doesn't have to be huge. Just start.
Because ultimately, achieving goals isn't about some magical moment of perfection. It's about showing up consistently, moving forward bit by bit.
It really is about that power of compounding effort over time, isn't it? Those small, steady actions adding up to real, significant change definitely gives you something to think about regarding what's possible with the right approach.